find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
What time is it? Let me check my watch. Oh, it's bone o'clock. In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Patellas to the sky Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn. Can't hold these femurs down. Heart.
I love that.
Yeah, why not? And this is the podcast where we talk about bones and bone-related topics.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that we can come to because we actually escaped a very creepy beach town that we went to on vacation this past weekend.
Yes, we did a little bony vacation to... There were no bones in sight, but the vibe at Seabrook, Washington is very quaint, very beautiful, but very, like, Stepford Wives, or just, like, too perfect, but I don't know.
It was like this sleepy beach town that we went on a little vacation with two of our other friends, Darren and Nick of podcast fame, and we were staying in this town that when we drove into it, it almost didn't look real. Nick said that looked like the Universal backlot. Like
yeah,
it looked like a
it did
set.
look like a movie set.
And they were like building half of it. And the thing that creeped me out the most was that there were some storefronts that looked like one day they looked like they were under construction. And then the next day they looked like they were open. But when you would look to the side and the side windows, the place was still empty. It was very weird.
There were ghosts there. And probably we were standing on top of an old pile of bones.
Oh, I bet. That's the vibe that I got, was there was some major haunting energy at the creepy town of Seabrook.
Cannot confirm or deny. Please do not let this take away from your experience at Seabrook, Washington. You gotta see it for yourself, honestly.
You gotta Seabrook it for yourself.
Hey, got him.
I got them. Yeah, but we were lightly but kind of seriously joking that the town is ruled by some sort of malevolent governor figure who forces everyone into conformity so that all their little vacation houses look the same. And one morning we were all getting ready and I was like, okay, everyone, how did you dress to please the governor?
Yeah.
I wore no eyeliner because the governor is very against makeup. It ruins your natural beauty, just like the landscape.
Wow, I can't remember what I did to please the governor that day.
God, how did you please the governor that day? Oh, can't remember. Partied too hard.
Yes, it was a vacation.
But I believe on the vacation, you got some reading done.
Well, what a beautiful segue. Yes,
I love when everyone points out my segues. I'm like, there's segues to be smooth. And everyone's like, nice segue, Sophie. I'm like, you're Paul Blarting me right now with my segue.
You're Paul Blarting me right now. Might be the name of this episode. I'm not totally convinced, but I'm not convinced.
Well, we'll see what it looks like after the edit.
Okay, so I believe it was first mentioned in my earbuds on my Morbid podcast that I absolutely love. And one of the hosts was reading Down the Rabbit Hole by Holly Madison of Playboy fame and other fame. She is very cool and others very much aside from Playboy, which we'll get into later. But anyway, I'm reading that book. It's very interesting, and it basically led to my topic this week, which is the murder of Playboy bunny Dorothy Stratten.
When you told me about this, I was like, I have never heard of this.
So much has happened in Playboy, like, lore since then that I think we just kind of have missed it. This happened in 1979.
So that is a little before our time.
No shit, sorry, 1980.
Also a little before our time.
1 year later, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
I forgive you.
Up top, this is a difficult story in places, and I'm going to put a trigger warning for domestic and sexual violence at the top of my story. So if you can't hear about that, this might not be the episode for you. I love you very much, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so she was born Dorothy Ruth Häyhä Stratten. So they changed her name later down the line when she's at Playboy. She just becomes Dorothy Stratten. But she was born Dorothy Ruth Häyhä Stratten in February 1960 in Vancouver, BC, Canada. She was born to a family of immigrants from the Netherlands, and she was the oldest of 3 children. When she was about 18, she was working at a Dairy Queen in Vancouver.
We love that.
We love a Dairy Queen. We drove, at one point we did drive past a Dairy Queen, and I think I was like, ooh, a blizzard sounds good. But it was like too late, but God, a blizzard always sounds good to me. I don't know about you, but...
Oh, I'm always in the mood for a blizzard.
Yeah. Dairy Queen has not been a big part of my life, so whenever there's Dairy Queen, I'm like, oh, this is so special.
I feel like there aren't a lot of Dairy Queens up here in Washington. I don't know.
No, they're sparse.
I don't see a lot of them.
Okay, anyway, so it's 1978. We're at Dairy Queen. Paul Snyder and a buddy of his walk in, and Dorothy is working behind the counter, and they start to talk, and she is kind of flirting with him, and he's flirting back. At the time, Snyder's buddy, who he was with, apparently said that Snyder said, quote, "That girl could make me a lot of money."
Ew.
Yeah, which is going to set the tone for this entire relationship. So Dorothy, she was 18 when she met him. He was 9 years older than her, which is legal, but...
A big red flag.
Well, 9 years age difference is very different when someone's 18 when they're otherwise... Like, if someone's in their, 20s and 30s, I don't know, just...
No, it's a different... Those are 2 different stages of life.
Right?
Once you're both fully mentally adults, have as much age gap as you like. Like, when you're still mostly a child...
Yeah, you just are 18. No, it's just... It's creepy.
What would that be, 27?
Yeah.
No. Yeah? As a person who's 28, it's like I'm so different than when I was 18.
Yeah, very, you're in very different stages, and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Reads gross and manipulative to me, but that's just reading from my own life experience.
Well, but that is what happened. So he charms her, he makes her dinner, he buys her, this says a topaz and a diamond ring. So apparently... In the 70s, that was a big whoop.
I mean, everybody loves Topaz.
Apparently.
Topaz is a girl's best friend.
Yeah, you've heard that common saying. The song, yeah.
Yeah. Topaz is a girl's best friend.
It has such a good ring to it. I don't think there's any gemstone that would be better.
No gemstone better than Topaz.
Unfortunately, we would come to find out that this was not the first woman that he had kind of tried to groom from a younger age. Ooh. This is not great. He was known as the Jewish pimp.
Oh, no.
Quote, he didn't keep a low profile, in that he drove a black Corvette, wore a mink coat, and a Star of David encrusted with jewels that he hung on his chest. He was called the Jewish pimp, and he cultivated that.
That's rough.
Yeah, we don't like me. That. I know, yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's part of the story. He's a bad man. There are bad. As a Jewish person, I can confidently say there are good Jews and there are bad Jews.
Of course.
Like there are all types of people.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't love that he cultivated his own image as a Jewish pimp.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes my skin want to crawl off and jump into the sea.
Yeah, we like pretty much anything Jewish. We don't like a Jewish pimp.
We don't prefer a Jewish pimp.
I don't really want a pimp of any kind. Anyway, back to the fucking story. So part of the grooming process was coercing / making her, persuading her, who knows, to pose for nude photos. So Snyder sent the photos of Dorothy to Playboy. And he sent them when there was like a contest going on, because Playboy did that sometimes where people would like send in pictures. She caught their eye, but she didn't actually end up winning. But she did get named Miss August 1979. So she didn't win like that particular contest, but they were like, you're going to be coming back to the magazine. And
but they ended up giving, I mean, did she get paid for that, I hope?
It's yes and no. It's a little bit, the culture at Playboy is a little bit strange for a lot of reasons. I am not done with Down the Rabbit Hole by Holly Madison, but it seems to me like, at least in the 2000s when she was there, women could live at the mansion. I don't think Dorothy did, but most of the women, more like in the 2000s, did live at the mansion. So that was maybe part of it, and he would give them allowances and stuff.
So he would pay them in like room and board.
At least that's the current understanding that I have. I don't know what it was like in the 70s for sure, but if I had to take a guess, you know.
For sure, but she didn't live there, so.
No, it doesn't seem like she did, but she did work there as a Playboy bunny at the club, and which was in Century City, apparently. Because she was only 18, she most likely wasn't like serving alcohol to anybody because it wasn't allowed, but she was like a bunny that would greet people when they arrived at the mansion.
I'm sure that's a fun, safe job.
Well, it's it's an interesting job for sure. Playboy it's a place where you can express yourself. It's an opportunity to maybe like get your face out there. It's like networking. It's like maybe a stepping stone to like an acting career. It can be a lot of things for people. It's still not okay that bad things happened to these women when they were there. You know what I mean? Like, I know that.
Yeah.
I just want to put it out.
The thing is that, yeah.
I want to put it out there now. Like, it's just because there's this culture in Playboy. And so people are like, well, why are you surprised that there was like sexual violence in the Playboy mansion? It's like, well, but like, just because sex is at the like center of your business, or like, you know, sexuality maybe, doesn't mean that violence should be happening within the walls, like at the highest level. Like, that doesn't excuse that behavior. I just have to say that right now.
Well, it's just an interesting thing, because I very much support women and femmes like being comfortable in their sexuality and being as outwardly sexual as they want to be. Like, honestly, no judgment there. It's the way that they're treated within this system that like really bothers me, because the, you know, sexuality and shame and violence are all like interconnected in these type of things. So it's like, if you really break it down, like what you're saying is that like it's okay that violence happened to these women because they're sexual.
Right, exactly, which is not okay, which is not the society that I want to live in.
Exactly. That's, I think, why I'm being so critical of it. Like, I know that it's different, you know, throughout different periods of the establishment of Playboy. Mm-hmm. But, like, I guess to me, from what I've heard of it already so far, I tend to look at it with a critical eye.
And as you should. I think for a number of years, long before either of us were alive, it was just this, like, peak of, like, everybody had a Playboy under their mattress, or like it was just like a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's gone through different stages, but it's always been just kind of this big establishment. And now, especially now, there's an A&E documentary that came out like this year or last year that is called Secrets of Playboy. It's a 10-part docuseries, and I really need to watch that. I just like, I find it so fascinating, this whole arc of Playboy, and I think a 10-parter sounds right up my alley. I didn't have time to squeeze it in before this recording, so I'll report back once I get through it.
definitely fascinating yet
troubling.
terrifying. Yeah,
Tricky,
to say the least.
Yeah, and I'm realizing now that this is a really touchy subject. This is tricky. So I hope we'll all be kind to each other and we'll bear with me.
I'm bearing with you, rar.
Yeah, because I want to tell Dorothy's story, but it's intertwined with this fucking asshole Paul Snider's.
Well, I mean, just one last part of this little tangent is that, like, you know, every murders don't happen in a vacuum. They happen within a culture.
Yeah.
And, like, to understand the crime, you have to understand the culture and the context in which it happens.
And to know that I know what I'm talking about, I probably should have told you my sources. My sources were ABC News, People Magazine, Fox News, Wikipedia, of course, and then an article from allthat'sinteresting.com that focused way too heavily on Paul Snider and not enough on Dorothy Stratten, in my opinion.
Boo.
Anyway, back to the story. We got off on a little tangent there. My apologies. So we're in June 1979, and of course Snider comes out and joins Dorothy in Los Angeles full-time. Remember, they came from Canada.
Where?
Canada.
Ah, yes, Canada. Our neighbors to the north.
Yeah, it was around this time that she appeared on Playboy's Roller Disco and Pajama Party and began to have bit parts in TV shows and movies. Fantasy Island was one, and Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. In 1980, she gets a title role in a sci-fi comedy called Galaxina, which I might want to watch sometime. I don't know if it ever happened. And also, no big deal, she was named Playmate of the Year.
Oh, shit.
Which is
for her.
Which is very...
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal within Playboy.
Yeah.
So, you can imagine as her career is taking off because she is married to an asshole who wants to control her, the relationship becomes strained. And he feels her pulling away, and he's worried that basically, my hot take and everybody's hot take is that he was worried that his meal ticket was about to leave him and go away.
I mean, makes sense.
He was just riding her coattails because that's what he had groomed her for, because that's what he wanted to use her for. He was a user.
That's what he literally said the first time that he met her was, I'm going to use this woman to make money.
And he did it to other women too. Things are already strained, and at the Playboy Mansion, Dorothy is introduced to a filmmaker named Peter Bogdanovich. And he falls head over heels for her and actually writes a role for her in his film They All Laughed, which also had Audrey Hepburn, Ben Gazzara, and John Ritter in it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So Dorothy and this director, Peter, are off making the movie. And another woman moves into Paul and Dorothy's apartment, which they share with a housemate, Stephen. So the other girl's name is Patty Lorman, and allegedly, Paul Snider was trying to turn her into his next, Playboy. I guess his backup.
Well, I guess you need a backup.
When you're nasty.
This man is so disgusting.
Yeah. I hope we all know that this guy sucks.
Oh, he is human scum.
He sucks so bad that when Dorothy comes back from filming the movie, she just moves in with Peter. She's like, I don't really want to live with you anymore. He's scary. He's controlling. It's all bad.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't totally cut him off because she's a kind person. Everybody that talked about her in my sources just talked about how kind and beautiful and lovely she was, and just how she would never just leave somebody in the lurch. And because she kind of felt like she owed her part of her rise to stardom to him, she was loyal to him in some ways.
I mean, I can understand that perspective. It seems like an extremely complicated relationship.
Yes. So she is trying to meet with Paul and wants to have an acrimonious separation. She even wants to give him a settlement because, like I said, she feels like he can take some credit for her getting discovered, I guess.
For mailing some nudie pics?
Exactly, to Hugh Hefner and getting his attention. And Hugh Hefner hated this guy, by the way. And if Hugh Hefner hates you, how disgusting do you have to be?
Yeah, how much of a piece of shit are you if Hugh Hefner hates you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Woof.
Exactly. Unfortunately, this is where the story is going to take even more of a nosedive, because this is when Paul Snider buys a shotgun through the classified ads.
Perfect.
Yep. And arranges to meet with Dorothy on August 14th, 1980. She goes over to the house that they used to live in together. And that's where this guy, Stephen Kushner, is also living. And then there's a new woman there, Patty Lorman, right? So there's 3 people living there now. Dorothy has just left, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so Patty, one of the housemates, says that she was at home like the morning of August 14th, but she left at some point in the day because she knew that Dorothy was coming over and she didn't want to be around. Stephen Kushner, the other housemate, said that he spent the previous night at his girlfriend's house and then went directly to work. So he wasn't there at all until like the evening of August 14th. When Stephen Kushner comes home, he sees Patty Lorman, and when he's coming in, he sees Dorothy's car and Paul Snider's car. So he and the other housemate, Stephen and Patty, assume that Dorothy and Paul are chilling in Paul's room or something. Like they don't really think anything of it. They kind of think that they've reconciled and that they're just like, don't want to be disturbed. Apparently, that's what one of the sources said. So the housemates are watching TV upstairs, but then they finally decide to go like investigate because it's too quiet. And the housemates open the door to Paul's room and they find both of them dead, shot to death in the room.
Whoa.
Yeah. Paul Snider had shot Dorothy in the face and then turned the gun on himself. And unfortunately, Dorothy was only 20 years old when this happened.
Ugh. There's so many hideous things that we have the pleasure of talking about, but this one just makes my heart ache.
I'm sorry.
No, it's just like, it's like the worst possible thing for this poor young woman who was just like, she was finally living her dream. She had a title role in a movie. Yeah. She was out of this abusive relationship and,
Yeah, she was about to be in her prime. And people said that she was going to be like the next, like our version of like Jennifer Aniston or Reese Witherspoon. Like she was like the it girl and she was going to do a lot of cool things.
And he just couldn't have that without him involved.
Exactly. He had to be a part of it. And if he couldn't be, then nobody could have her. It's disgusting.
And then he killed himself, so there's no justice.
Yep, exactly. So, what are the repercussions of this horrible event?
I'd like to know, yeah.
Yeah, so this particularly affected a woman named Mickey Garcia, who at the time was Playboy's director of promotions, who arranged a lot of like appearances with the Playmates. And she talked to a lot of media people and she was in the documentary that I mentioned earlier. So she claims that she had actually tried to intervene on Dorothy's behalf to Hugh Hefner when she discovered that Paul Snider had been, quote, arrested in Vancouver for dope peddling and pimping. And she had sent those words in a memo to Hugh Hefner on August 24th, 1979, which was like a year before the murder.
Yeah, like to the month.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fucking weird. There's another woman, this was through Fox News, there apparently is a woman that worked as a secretary for Hugh Hefner that claims that the night that Dorothy was murdered, he asked his secretary, he being Hugh Hefner, asked his secretary if he could get a date with the new girl at the mansion. And like, I kind of believe that because he's yucky.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Anyway, she, seeing Dorothy's experience at Playboy and realizing her own not complacency in it. Complacence? What's the word? Compliance. Basically, Mickey has a change of heart, partially because of what happened to Dorothy. She said, quote, "I began hating myself. It was a wake-up call to me. I was one of Hefner's best ambassadors. I had to reevaluate everything in my life. I had to look at everything. I had to look at who I was. I had to look at who I worked for. Most of all, I had to look at the playmates. And so this change of heart, she ends up going on in 1985 to appear before the U.S. Attorney's Office Commission on Pornography, and she tells them what she thinks is wrong with Playboy. She said, quote, "I hope that my testimony will bring to light the inherent evils within the Playboy organization. I believe that for the most part, the Playmates' problems were a result of their association with Hugh Hefner, his friends, and Playboy magazine." She also alleges that Hugh Hefner had incriminating or salacious photos of Dorothy that Dorothy was afraid he would leak as well.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So things come out that make the story even more tragic, basically, if it already wasn't bad enough.
Yeah, so not only was she trapped in this abusive relationship, she was trapped in a blackmail type situation.
Exactly. Which is kind of furthered, let's say, because Peter Bogdanovich, her boyfriend at the time of her death, publishes a book 4 years after she died called The Killing of the Unicorn. And he actually, in the book, he blames Hefner, quote, "blames Hefner and the culture of Playboy for contributing to Stratton's death. He also accused Hefner of making unwanted advances on Stratton at the Playboy Mansion in 1978. Hefner denied all of this, but I have a hard time believing that it didn't happen.
Well, kind of from what you have told us about the culture, it doesn't seem like it would be something that was out of place or unusual there.
No. Please, if you're interested in this like I am and horrified and fascinated, go read Down the Rabbit Hole. So now we're going to end on some, I know we've been through it, we're going to end on some positive things.
Good.
I will try and bring you down, but I always try to bring you back up. So Peter Bogdanovich stays close with Dorothy's family for several years after her death, and he actually ends up marrying her younger sister.
Interesting.
I know, a little interesting, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's I don't think it's sinister. I don't know, but I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it's sweet in a way of two people who are extremely affected by this coming together to fall in love.
Yeah, I hope that's the story. Peter Bogdanovich did die this year in January when he was 82. So what's different? How has Playboy learned from this, or have they at all? The answer
I would
is
like
yes.
to know, yeah. Yes?
They issued a statement when the docuseries from A&E, it's called Secrets of a Playboy, when it aired, or before it aired, they issued a statement, which I am going to end on. This is from Playboy. "We trust and validate these women and their stories, and we strongly support those individuals who have come forward to share their experiences. As a brand with sex positivity at its core, we believe safety, security, and accountability are paramount. The most important thing we can do right now is actively listen and learn from their experiences. We will never be afraid to confront the parts of our legacy as a company that do not reflect our values today. As an organization with a more than 80% female workforce, we are committed to our ongoing evolution as a company and to driving positive change for our communities."
I like that. I really support that. The fact that, all of the people who worked for Playboy were supported by the company is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And that they relate sex positivity with sex safety.
Exactly.
That made me tear up, because I did not think that they were going to come out as good on that as they did.
Yeah. Surprises abound.
That surprised me. That did surprise me.
That's my story. Thank you for going on that journey with me. I know it was intense. Thank you for hanging in if you did.
That was intense, but I feel changed by that story. I feel lucky to know Dorothy's story. And I think a lot of people who have been in manipulative relationships will probably find things, to relate to, within this story. Even though it's hard to hear. It's stuff that I think goes along with being a true crime communicator, is that being more victim focused, yes. I think is a responsibility that we have.
Exactly.
I think on that note, everyone should have a cookie and maybe get another stuffed animal if that's your steez. I'll be grabbing my little squishy octopus called Oscar that I bought at Seabrook to join me for my story. And we'll see you after the ad.
Bye.
Hey, Freaky friends! It's Michelle and Melissa from the Freaky Fridays podcast. We are sisters in separate states and love to talk about all kinds of spooky, freaky, and scary shit while drinking and laughing through our fear.
Join us Fridays as we delve into everything from the world of the paranormal to scary movies to creepy stuff we find around the internet. Subscribe to Freaky Fridays wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Sleep tight.
Make sure you leave the lights on.
Freaky Fridays is a proud member of the Podmoth Network. For more awesome pods, check out podmoth.network.
All right. Oscar and I are resettled in. Oscar's on the mic. Oscar, do you have anything to say? I have no bones. What? Oscar, that's crazy.
Oscar, do octopus have bones?
1 second.
Is it octopi in plural?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow.
No bones!
Not a bone in sight.
I was right. Well, Oscar was right, technically.
Yes. No, thank you for clearing that up, Oscar and Sophie.
I mean, I can't take credit for my son's achievements. I'm not that kind of mom. All right. So to switch gears entirely.
Yes. And now for something completely different.
As is the custom on this show, as is our tradition. So I'm going to say my sources really quickly, except for one which gives away my thing.
Yeah.
And will be in the show notes. So we have an all that's interesting. Boo to them for focusing too much on that murderer. And then 2 articles from Wikipedia, and then a 4th mystery article.
A mystery article.
All right. So, Katelyn, what do you know about the Winter War?
The Winter War?
The Winter War.
Can I get a year on that? No?
Sure. I mean, sure, if you want to guess who it's between. 1939.
Nope, that doesn't help me at all. No, I have not heard of it.
Okay, so the Winter War, which I had only heard of by reading The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I think it's very briefly mentioned. So I was not familiar. I had to text Nicholas Kruger and ask him if he knew about the Winter War, and he was like, lol, I can look it up. I only vaguely remember it. I was like, fair enough. So it's also known as the First Soviet-Finnish War, which is a war between the Soviet Union and Finland.
Shoot.
So a little background on this. This war began with the Soviet Union invading Finland on the 30th of November, 1939.
Damn.
And
where have we seen this before, I wonder?
I don't think you'll see any parallels to any current events in this. I don't think that is what will happen. So this is 3 months after the outbreak of World War II, and it ended 3.5 months later.
Okay.
So it was a quickie of a war.
Good.
Which we like. We like a shorter the better.
Exactly. That's my motto.
When it comes with wars. Yeah. And it ended with the Moscow Peace Treaty on March 13th, 1940. So just for some background on the beef between Finland and Russia / the Soviet Union.
Yeah, what's the beef?
Because it's the Soviet Union for most, if not all of this.
Sure.
So this is the beef. I will preface this with, this is a long and complicated beef. I am giving you the most slim of beef. This is a cow that runs around a lot. So in the early 1800s, Finland was part of the Kingdom of Sweden. And then in 1808 to 1809, the Russian Empire waged the Finnish War against the Kingdom of Sweden, which was to defend St. Petersburg, but also to kind of get Finland. And so they ended up kind of getting Finland. Finland was its own thing, but it was now associated with Russia. And they were heavily attempting to assimilate it into Russia. But for the time being, it was an autonomous buffer state, which basically means it was a territory where, like, you know, this is the zone that we put between two zones that like to fuck with each other, but if we put this zone in the middle, maybe they won't fuck with each other.
Okay. Like a neutral zone.
Yeah, but
not.
Not really. So by this we get the Grand Duchy of Finland, which I just wanted to say, because every time we get a Grand Duchy, it makes me happy.
A Grand Duchy. Wow.
The Grand Duchy of Finland. Meet me there. So they enjoyed a bit of autonomy from Russia at this time, but Russia is, like I said, heavily trying to assimilate them into their whole deal. Now, Russia begins to run into some problems at the end of the 1800s, early 1900s, with World War I and the collapse of the Russian Empire, which we know a little bit about, don't we, Katoon?
Yeah, a little bit.
So the Bolshevik Russian government comes to replace the monarchy, the Tsar, and his fun pals. And one of their things is that they are telling all of the national minorities that they have the right for self-determination, which basically means that they have the right to declare, like, national autonomy under this new government. And Finland was like, hell yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And they did that. And on December 6, 1917, the Senate of Finland declared the nation's independence. So they were like, we are Finland. We are not part of your shit anymore. So during this time, there was a lot of turmoil in Finland. They had just like a quick civil war and were a bit unstable coming into the 1930s. Which made them a little bit vulnerable to something like an invasion. But tensions were running really high with Russia because Finland had sent some spies in, and then Russia were trying to make land grabs on Finland. So, like, there was a lot of tensions going on between them. So this all came to a head on November 30th, 1939, when Soviet forces invaded Finland with 21 divisions, with 4,500 men, and they basically bombed the shit out of Helsinki, which killed about 100 citizens and destroyed 50 buildings. So they came in hard.
Yeah, God. No thank you.
So, as for Finland, their army was just 300,000 strong, which was much smaller than Russia's forces, and they only had about a little over 100 aircraft. So versus the giant of the Soviet Union at the time, it was looking not great for Finland.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, the Soviets in juxtaposition had nearly double everything that they had, plus like 6,000 tanks and 3,000 aircraft.
Fuck.
So they're looking dangerous at the moment. As I've written here, now I'm sure none of this sounds familiar or applies to any current events past or present.
Sorry, I said that too early.
No, that is totally fine. So at this point enters our hero, the real reason we are even talking about the Finnish Winter War, Simo Häyhä.
Hi, Simo. What did you do?
Would you like a picture of Simo?
Yes.
This is Simo.
Oh.
What are you laughing at?
He just looks so much like a marshmallow man, and he's just so goddamn happy about it.
He's fucking pleased as punch in that picture. What Katelyn's basically looking at is our friend Simo, who is a Finnish man. He was born in a small town in southern Finland, kind of near their border with Russia. And he was the seventh of 8 children, and his family were all farmers. And he is just kind of a regular dude. As in the picture, he's dressed up in his military uniform because he did fight in this war, and that's what we will be talking about, is his involvement in this war, because he did quite a lot.
Okay, here we go.
This happy little man. So in 1925, at the age of 19, Simo did his, they had compulsory military service in Finland at the time, so everyone had to go be a part of the military. And he was like, cool, if I'm going to do that, I'm joining the bicycle brigade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. He rode around on a bicycle for the military.
Yeah, do your nasty thing.
Do your nasty thing. And after that, he was like, okay, I'm done with the military. I'm just gonna go home and, like, do my farming thing. He really liked skiing, and he was really good at shooting and hunting. And he entered a couple shooting competitions, but he wasn't a boastful guy. Whenever they would take pictures, even though the man is 5'3", which is my height, he would always stand in the back and was, like, hard to see in pictures because he was just kind of a humble guy. When Stalin's troops invaded, Simo was like, I gotta do my service. I gotta go back in. And so he grabs his old, like, antique Russian-made rifle and is like, okay, I'm going back in. And so he doesn't receive his sniper training until about a year before the war. But he joins up, and according to Major Tapo Sarelian, who met Simo during training and then ended up writing 5 books about him.
Oh, casual.
Yeah. He spoke to his abilities as a marksman. He said that Simo was able to have an accuracy of within 1 meter from up to 150 meters away.
That sounds pretty good.
How about I put it another way? He once hit a target 16 times from 150 meters away in 1 minute.
Yeah. I want him on my team.
Yeah, we all do. And this was also super impressive because this was a bolt-action rifle, so he basically had to, like, feed and fix the magazine and, like, hold together 5 cartridges while shooting. So, like, we love a multitasker. So he ends up serving as a sniper during this war from 1939 to 1940. So, as you saw in this picture, along with his fellow Finnish fighters, they would wear all white, like, very layered up, big hood, and that was basically so that they could blend in with the snow, which was fucking everywhere.
Yep.
Simo kind of MO was that he would wear his white suit. He preferred to work by himself. He would bring, like, a day's worth of food and, like, a bunch of ammunition, and then he would sneak through the woods. He would, like, find a spot. He would dig a hole, like, in the snow, get all set up, and then pick off Russians all fucking day.
Jesus Christ.
And the temperatures that they're experiencing are like minus 40 degrees out there. It's super intense. And the Soviet troops were not, like, given camouflage appropriate for the snow until almost all the way through the war, like almost right at the end. And so they, like, were super cold and very visible.
Shoot, yeah.
And in addition to this, Stalin had purged his army of his, like, military of all the best, like, military leaders as a part of the Great Purge, which happened in the Red Army, and they were so disorganized. They were a fucking mess.
Wait, he just, like, got rid of the leaders?
Yeah, he was like, I don't like a lot of these military leaders. They're not military leaders anymore.
Oh, and he just killed them all?
I'm not exactly sure what he did, but knowing Stalin, maybe.
Oh, God.
I just know that he gave him the axe, professionally at least.
Okay, I didn't remember that detail.
So the Winter War ended up lasting about 100 days. And during this time, Simo's kill count as a sniper was based on his own reporting with confirmation from his, like, fellow people in his regiment, plus verifying the dead and counting them. No count was taken when several snipers shot at the same target, and when men were killed with a machine gun with Simo in the group, they were not counted. So if, like, multiple people were shooting at them with a machine gun, they also didn't count it.
Okay.
So one thing that was interesting about Simo is that not only was he, like, accurate sniper skill-wise, he used antiquated equipment. He used, like, a iron sight, which is just like a metal thing to focus and find your target on, instead of what was modern technology at the time, which would have been a telescopic sight, which involved glass. So he didn't like it because you had to kind of pick yourself up a little bit to use it. So you had to pop your head up a little bit more. So he didn't like that because it would make you more visible.
Oh.
And he didn't like it as well because it would fog up in cold weather and light could glint off of it and give away your position. So he was like, I will continue using this outdated rifle because it's works better for me.
Sure. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right? Exactly.
I don't know anything about guns.
Neither do I. So he would, for snacks, he would keep sugar and bread in his pocket.
Okay. Are you a duck?
To make him warm. Yeah. He's a little bit of a duck. So he would basically set off at sunrise, and he would not leave until sunset, and he would pack himself into mounds of snow to conceal himself. So he'd basically dig a hole and then put snow on top of himself. He would also put snow around his gun so that no snow would, like, pack it in tight so no snow would move when he shot. And he also put snow in his fucking mouth so that the vapor of his breath would not give him away.
Jesus.
He was serious.
I bet he survived this fucking war.
So he had an average of 5 kills per day, with his highest count being 25 on one day.
Whoa.
So his, like, division commander credited him with 219 confirmed kills with a rifle, an equal amount with a submachine gun. So he is a very deadly man. So during the time that this was all happening, they would keep track of who killed how many people every day. And here's a little bit of the tracking on Simo. On December 22nd, 1939, 139 sniper kills in 22 days. On January 26th, we have 199 sniper kills, up to 219 in February, and then in March, up to 259. So he was just consistently out there.
He was just really, really killing people out there.
Well, his technique was so precise, and he was so patient. He would just lie in the snow all day, and you wouldn't be able to fucking find him because he's 5'3" and buried in the snow.
Yeah, true.
The man is a trap. To this, he started getting a reputation within the Russian army, being known as the White Death.
Oh.
Which is...
haunting.
Haunting. That also was used in Finnish propaganda, kind of almost with an opposite connotation, as like a savior angel.
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah, they want to win the Finnish want to win, so...
I mean, we want the Finnish to win in this one. Unfortunately, 11 days before the Winter War would end, the tables got turned on Simo, and someone shot him.
Damn it!
So, Simo was severely wounded after an explosive bullet was fired by a Red Army soldier and hit him in the lower jaw.
Oh, ow.
So, after the battle, they thought he was dead. So, they put him on a pile of dead bodies. And then later, one of the commanders were like, "Hey, where's Simo?" And they were like, he's dead. He was like, "I am not sure. I would maybe go check." And so they go pull him out, and that motherfucker is still alive.
What the fuck? They
Yes.
pulled him out of the pile of dead bodies?
Hell yeah, they did. His leg was twitching, and they were like, "He's alive!"
Wow.
Hell yeah, Simo! And so they pulled him out, and about half of his face was missing.
Yep. Ah, God.
And basically, rumors of his death began to spread around both Finland and the Soviet Union. And he did remain unconscious until around March 13th, which was actually the day that peace was declared. So he woke up on the day peace was declared.
That's very poetic.
Yeah, and he actually ended up reading about his own death in the newspaper.
Whoa.
And he had to write in himself to correct them.
Be like, "Hey, I'm still here, motherfuckers."
I literally said, well, we cannot find what he said to the newspaper, so I wrote it for him.
Yep.
Quote, "Lol, I am not dead, bitches. Try again. XOXO, Simo."
Yes.
Okay, so he spent 14 months recovering from these facial wounds, and he had to have 26 different surgeries.
Whoa, that's a lot of surgery.
Yeah, and after he was done with all of this, he was like, "Oh, we're having the continuation war," which is a different war that I didn't look into because we only have so much time for military history. He was like, "I want to find the continuation war," and they were like, "Simo, no! Simo, no."
You need
And
take it easy, my guy.
Yeah, you've done enough. And so he was like, fucking fine. And he ended up just recuperating from his injuries, and he was given a farm, which is really nice. And he became a successful moose hunter and dog breeder. And he even hunted with the president of Finland at one point.
Okay, sure.
So that's kind of
cool.
fun. This is hard for him because, a lot of people didn't approve of what he did during the war, which is like, it's complicated. It is.
Yeah.
It's very complicated because he did kill what would end up being more or less 500 people.
Whoa. Yeah.
So that's intense. But also the stakes were very high in an international conflict during World War II. So it's like, everything like we were talking about with your story, everything exists within context. Mm-hmm. And he was a well-known man and did receive a lot of death threats and hate. And the injuries he had left him super recognizable. And he suffered from a lot of loneliness and fear. And he said that nights were especially difficult for him.
Oh.
He did spend a lot of time with his parents and siblings, though, but he never got married and he never had any kiddos. So he was known as a really modest man, and he never boasted about his wartime merits. But he did later talk about his experience with the war. He said, when asked if he felt remorse for what he had done in the war, he said, quote, "I did what I was told to do as well as I could. There would be no Finland unless everyone else had done the same." So I think that's a very interesting thing to say, especially because when his personal memoirs were found in 2017, when they found the list of how many people he had killed, it was titled, This is a sin list.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty telling.
Yeah. He spent his last years in a veterans nursing home, and then when he died in 2002, he was 96 years old.
Wow.
And he was buried in his hometown. He is now known as the deadliest sniper in modern history.
Damn.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting about this is that during the Winter War, the Soviet Union ended up gaining about 22,000 square miles of Finnish soil. And Finland had managed to kill 1 million of their 1,500,000 troops that they brought. And a Russian general remarked that the land that they conquered was just enough to bury their dead.
Woof.
Yeah. So, in the end, a pointless land grab that resulted in way more deaths than was necessary, and the permanent scarring, both physically and mentally, of its survivors. And it just does make me think about current events and how this will all end up shaking out, because I just really hope that, they have the land to bury their dead for this mistake.
Yeah. Fuck. Nice job, Soph.
Thank you. Everyone, send a smile to Simo Häyhä for his service. Would you like to see a picture of him? Can I send you one other picture of him?
Of course.
This is him post-war. Pretty good for having half his face shot off.
Pretty good for having his face shot off in the 40s.
Yeah.
Wow.
But how they were able to reconstruct his face is pretty wild for the 40s.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my story. When I was researching it, I was not even thinking about current events until I started reading it and was like, wow, a lot of this seems really familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, unfortunately, history tends to repeat itself as much as we don't want to admit it.
Yeah, but hopefully from this, we can see that a smaller nation like Finland, like Ukraine, can put up a fight. I was reading on the news, or I was being told by the news, that, Russia had expected to take Kyiv in 2 days, and they still haven't in 20. So, the power of resistance, both there and at home. We're having a bit of a crisis in Texas with, our trans youth and their safety. And, you know, if you can donate where you can, if you can get the awareness out, you know, trans children are having a real rough time, and their bodily autonomy is being taken from them. So, you know, when we think of standing strong and fighting strong, you know, we can think of these powers across the sea from us, but we can also look inward and say, where is my fight to fight? You know, where are my guys to snipe?
Who do I have my beef with?
Where does my beef lie?
Mm-hmm. Where does my beef lie?
Well, thank you so much for your amazing story, and thank you, listeners, for chilling with us for this one.
Yeah. Let's do something lighter next week. How about that?
What about a bonanza?
Yeah, let's do a bonanza. It's on the record, so we have to do it.
Contractually obligated.
We'll post a picture of Simo and Dorothy, and probably a little picture of Oscar, the stuffed animal, the octopus, Oscar the octopus.
I mean, octopus is an animal.
Yeah. Without bones, we know
Technically right. Without bones! Oh, the irony is crazy, but I guess, you know, as his mother, I want to accept him just the way he is.
Be sure to check out all those pictures on Instagram and on our website. Hit subscribe and give us a review if you have the time.
Yeah, tell us what your favorite bone is in the review.
Yeah, what's your favorite bone? Let us know in your review.
We love you guys. Stay safe. Do one nice thing for yourself, at least one nice thing for yourself this week.
Bone.
Voyage.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter,
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
Big one. Sassy. Nasty.
Welcome to
Nasty,
episode
nasty
69 of Anything Bones.
Hey, it's a nasty one. Wet and wild.
No.